I'm Justin Westinger, and with me is Reagan Cox.
Hello.
And welcome to the Only SP Forum. With a new month comes a new show to Only Single Player. On Only SP Forum, we'll be talking about various specific topics and formulating our own opinions about them. We really want to foster a positive discussion about gaming, and in doing so, talk with you guys about what you think about some of the things that have been happening in gaming today. Today's topic is Star Wars Battlefront, and as a huge fan of everything Star Wars, I am pretty excited. You played both Battlefronts, correct?
Yeah, I played the first one on PS2 when it first came out, and then I got to Battlefront 2 on PC a little later.
Yeah, and it's funny because mine's sort of reverse of that. I played the first Battlefront on PC, and the second one on PlayStation 2, and so the first Battlefront released in 2004, with Battlefront 2 releasing a year after in 2005, and that was a decade ago. That was that's 10 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
But I remember that took up a lot of my time. Battlefront was really fun because it puts you in these big Star Wars battles and lets you experience them firsthand. If you're not familiar with Battlefront, if you haven't played it, shame on you. Fantastic game. But be sure to give it out. It is on Steam and stuff like that. But basically the gist of Battlefront is you play in these large battles throughout the history of Star Wars, and you don't play as any characters. You don't play as, people like Anakin Skywalker or anything like that. You play just as soldiers of different factions. You play either as the Rebels, the Galactic Empire, the Separatist droids, or the Republic clone army. And there was a third Battlefront being developed after Battlefront 2, but that never really happened because each developer that took on Battlefront 3 just ended up going bankrupt, and it was a really sad thing. And Battlefront has a huge community of it, and a lot of the people were pretty bummed and thought they'd never see the day that Battlefront would return. And I think everybody's pretty happy now that EA and DICE is taking it on.
Definitely.
So late 2012, Disney acquired LucasArts and everything LucasArts owned. Star Wars, the rights to movies and games like that. And Disney made a pretty smart decision by giving away the game rights to well-established developers and publishers. EA currently has a ton of Star Wars games rights under the belt now, and they have a few developers working on a few games already. BioWare is working on a new Star Wars game. We can hope that it is KOTOR 3, Knights of the Old Republic 3. Visceral is taking on a new Star Wars game. A lot of people are thinking that they are reviving Star Wars 1313, which is a Star Wars adventure game that was being developed a few years ago, but was eventually canceled. So a lot of people are thinking Visceral is taking on that, or maybe New Republic Commando. That'd be awesome.
That would be cool too. Yeah,
that'd be so cool. And of course, DICE taking on Star Wars Battlefront. And I don't think anybody else would be better for Star Wars Battlefront because, in essence, Star Wars Battlefront is extremely similar to Battlefield, the Battlefield series, of course, developed by DICE. And the way the battles work, with the each team has a point, and you lose points by dying and spawning and etc. It's very similar in the way they work. So, no doubt that the new Star Wars Battlefront is going to be new, but it is going to be pretty similar to the old games. I don't doubt.
Right, and it's class-based too, so you have like shock troopers and snipers and standard soldiers, stuff like that. So yeah, it's very similar to the Battlefield DNA, if you will. And
so while, everybody got hyped up hearing Battlefield's coming back, last E3, I believe, is when the first announcement was made. And, everybody's excited, but we barely have any news about it. Barely any information at all, apart from a few cinematic trailers and new concept art which was just released the other day. Just one image, but still enough to hype some people up. And so, with no information about what the game will be like, and even a campaign, stuff like that, us at Only SP super excited about what a single player campaign could be like. And so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about what we'd like to see in a Star Wars campaign. And I think there are a few ways they could go about it. Originally, the Star Wars Battlefront 3 that was being developed a while ago was rumored to focus on a single character and follow his or her story throughout the universe. And, sort of develop that character as they go on and follow their adventures. And that's very different than the campaign that was in the previous games. Now, I don't remember a specific campaign from the first game. It was just battles being played in the sequence.
It was just battles on different maps and stuff like that.
But the Star Wars Battlefront 2 sort of improved on that, where it followed the story of the 501st Legion, which is a pretty legendary legion in the Star Wars universe. That is the clone trooper legion that was commanded by Anakin Skywalker throughout the Clone Wars and then into the Galactic Empire. They are famous for sticking with Anakin all the way into where he became Lord Vader, and etc. So Battlefront 2 followed their story from being a clone in the Clone Wars all the way into Order 66, where they killed all the Jedi, and then into becoming stormtroopers in the Empire. And so you play as one of those soldiers in all of these different kinds of battles throughout the timeline chronologically. And it's pretty interesting following their story, but it's not like story heavy. It's just one battle after the other with slight narration.
It just follows the Star Wars timeline mostly. That's the important part of it.
Basically, yeah. And that's sort of what I'd like to see in the new Battlefront. Nothing... I mean, obviously, a story would be nice, but I feel like if they push story and, focused on, like, characters and settings and, like, themes like that, I feel like it'd really detract from a lot of what makes the game, awesome. Like, these grand, huge-scale battles, the mechanics of the game, stuff like that.
Definitely.
So I'd like to see something very similar to Battlefield 2. And hopefully nothing like previous Battlefield, DICE's Battlefield campaigns.
Right, yeah, just not anything but a big scripted Battlefield 4 style campaign would pretty much work.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine if DICE were to go that route, like what they've done with Battlefield, it'd probably just be like a small squadron of rebels or whatever, and following their story. But we said there's no information, but there's one little tidbit where the game will not feature the Clone Wars timeline. You will be only playing as either Imperial Stormtroopers or the Rebel Alliance. And I think they did this mostly because of the new Star Wars trilogy is premiering this year at the end of the year, and so I'm pretty interested to see what they do. They're probably going to tie it into those movies somehow, and
right.
Of course, I'm interested to see how they do it.
And if you look at how Disney's been building like the Marvel brand, they've been doing a great job. So I'm confident that they can do the same for Star Wars, and I'd be very surprised if they didn't stipulate that EA had to tie it into the new trilogy in some manner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Disney seems to be treating Star Wars as much like how they treat Marvel. Games aside, Marvel they're setting up Star Wars the same way that Marvel is, where there's one major movie like the Avengers, and then they have all these standalones sprinkled throughout, like the individual superhero movies. And Disney does a good job of tying all those stories together to make something awesome, and that's what they want to do with Star Wars, and no doubt that will reflect in their video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I definitely agree with that.
Here's hoping that Battlefront will definitely tie in to the new stories, and even feature probably new settings maybe.
I'd be surprised if it didn't, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Especially since they're cutting out that whole timeline before. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they got to fill that in with all the new stuff.
Right.
And so the few routes that they can go with the campaign is they can do something very similar to Battlefield 2, where it was just, sequenced battles with, a little bit of storytelling sprinkled throughout. They could do something like they've done in Battlefield games, where it follows like a group of characters, whatever kind of generic circumstance they fall in. That'd probably be the not the least favorable.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, least immersive.
It's not what I want to see, at least.
I don't want them to treat it like Battlefield in that they made Battlefield solely about its, fantastic multiplayer, and then they just made like a single player to go on with it.
Right.
I want this to be like the full package, just like the previous games were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope they see the style of campaign they set up. I believe it was Pandemic who developed the first two.
I think so.
Mistaken.
Yeah.
So I hope they see the style that Pandemic set up for the single player worked well and was popular, and kind of take notes from that.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think there's any way that this game can tank. This game can be botched. I think DICE can really make this the game that Battlefront fans want to have. Whether or not they treat the campaign like it should, I'm sure it'll still turn out, pretty awesome. Here's knocking on wood for that, but
yeah.
those are the big ways that they could go about it. It's weird because I can't really imagine this campaign going a different direction than how it already has been established.
Right. Yeah.
I can't imagine like I guess sort of it's sort of like a Call of Duty, even where Call of Duty, the single player featured settings and environments that you moved through, but the multiplayer maps were sort of built around the settings that you moved through in the single player, or at least the old Call of Duties were like that, at least. So I'm interested to see if they sort of go that route, where if they do focus on like a sort of generic, Battlefield-esque story, that they at least put it in settings that you want to be in, and that you can move through, sort of like Battlefield, and that you can partake even more in the multiplayer, in the instant action, in the huge maps. No doubt those maps are going to be huge.
Yeah.
We've seen what they've done with Battlefield. Giant, huge jets, just huge airspace where you can fly around jets and dogfight, and lots of ground to cover. And that'd be super awesome to see in Star Wars.
Right, and I'd say the only thing that DICE really needs to do for this to be a successful game is have it work. Like, day one when it comes out, it needs to be a functioning product. And if they can do that, I think this game will be really successful and really good.
Oh, yeah. No doubt it'll be multiplayer heavy, so here's hoping that the servers are good to go by then. Yeah. Maybe we'll even see a beta.
Yeah, probably. They've done it with Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline. I'd be surprised if they didn't have some sort of beta.
Pretty much need a beta nowadays to make sure everything's working the way it needs to go.
Definitely.
So, like we said, there's not a lot of news on the game. Be sure to stay tuned to OnlySP for everything. We'll inform you guys as soon as we hear about it. But mostly we want to hear about what you guys think about Battlefront, what you're excited to see, what you want to see, and what you think shouldn't happen. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like I said, tell us what you think about Battlefront and this new show in general. This is what this show is all about, is Only SP Forum. We want to talk with you guys about what you think is happening in gaming today. So be sure to stay tuned for more, and till next time.